all so much. Good evening to everyone. Thank you all for sticking around. I definitely want to give a big thank you to Fran Joy, Mom, and and to Lisa D. This was a necessary event, and the key word is necessary, because there are people in this world that needed to hear the words that have been spoken on this stage today. Absolutely. So thank you. And looking forward to the next one, to the next round of women that will speak on this stage. So thank you, thank you. Definitely want to say thank you to Steve Rogers. I think he's gone. He's gone. But I've recorded a couple episodes here. He's always opening this space up to the community, so I just wanted to give him another thank you. He is just absolutely amazing. When you hear the history of this property here, and then he gives away everything for free. I don't even know how he makes money on this place. Like, did you hear, like, he didn't charge anything to anybody? And then a thank you to Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky. When I started Evanston Live TV back in 2015, she was one of the first officials to allow me to interview her. She didn't know me, but she loved the thought of engaging the community. And she's always answering the call, so she's helped me to launch the new platform that I have, and then I reached out to her to come join us today, and she's always answering the call. So thank you to Jan Schakowsky. I'm sure she's going to see the video, so I just want her to know I thank you. Thank you so much. And to all the ladies who have come before me on this stage, much respect, much respect to you. I feel honored to share this stage with you all tonight, so thank you so much. So tonight, I want to leave you with a call to action. If anyone looks at my program, my platform, that's what I'm about. Has anyone watched Evanston Live TV and Where the People Meet? And okay, so I want to leave you with a call to action. My story is just a backdrop, but what's most important is what we do from here together. So everyone in this room is in a different field, whether it's for-profit, nonprofit, healthcare, government, arts and entertainment. But one thing that we all have in common in those different fields is that we encounter a system. And sometimes that system can be in our favor, and then sometimes that system is like boxing a mountain. Absolutely. So we look at like what's happening in the news right now. We hear the story of Sean Combs, Diddy. How many people heard that story? We hear the updates like every day, right? That was a system. So here you have this man that was being accused, allegedly, of abusing young women and young men. Corruption, money laundering, all of these things. And then when you watch the news and you listen to the talk shows and you're reading the blogs, what's the one question that always pops up in all of it when they talk about Diddy? Why didn't anyone say anything? From 1990 to present day, nobody said anything. Nobody said anything. But the truth is, people were speaking, but the system silenced them. The system silenced them. And there's a system that exists in everything that we do, every field that we are in. Some of us have had to learn early about systems. I learned at 9 years old, and you'll think back to the time when you first encountered a system. Mine was 9 years old when my father was violently murdered, and my stepfather was murdered 2 years later after that. No justice in either of them. And my grandmother, my father's mother, had to sit me down because they let his killer go. The grand jury in downstate Illinois let his killer go. And Mama Vida, God rest her soul, she never sugarcoated anything. She wanted to just tell me straight up, this is the world that you live in at 9 years old. She said, it's a system. The system silenced the witness who saw the murder, and the system controlled the grand jury because they didn't value your father's life. He's a black man. They could care less. That's just one less black man in the world. They didn't care. So she let me know there's a system in place. So I learned early at 9 years old. And all I thought at that time at 9 was, I want to fight. I want to fight. Fast forward to me being 19 years old. I started to think the world was just, okay, maybe I'm a little too cynical, let me open up. So I'm at Columbia College, doing what I love. My passion was dancing and the entertainment industry and theater. And I just felt like the world was opening up, like there was so much hope, and I was just excited. I was young, and yes, I'm ready to take on the world. And then a friend of mine named Nikki Foster, born and raised here in Evanston, she was a singer. She said, let's go to Atlanta, Georgia. It's the new Motown back in the early 90s. It was the new progressive city. Everybody was flocking to Atlanta, especially if you wanted to be in the music industry. So I said, okay, let's go. We both dropped out of college. I know my mom was not happy about that. But I wanted to go on this adventure. I was like, college will always be there. Let's go see what this is about. And we get there, and we're having the time of our life. We're broke as heck, but we're loving it. The industry, meeting lots of people. We met a young producer that some may know now named Dallas Austin, and he introduced us to some people at LaFace Records that was just opening in Atlanta. They hadn't even released their first artist yet. So L.A. Reid and Babyface opened this record company. So I was asked to audition as a dancer to go on tour. So I'm like, oh my God, the world is beautiful, life is grand. So I landed the audition, got the part, things started moving very, very fast on the road, traveling with artists that I grew up and respected, and then the system hit, the reality of the industry, and it hit hard, and I was 19, 20 years old. So this high-level executive, VP at LaFace Records, started being very persistent and putting the pressure on me to do things that I didn't want to do. So I knew I only had a few more no's to tell him that I wasn't down with the get down. And I had confided in an artist, a singer there named Dia Dame. She was in her 30s. I was 19, 20, so I thought she was old. She was in her 30s, so she was like a mother figure, I thought, at the time. But I didn't put myself in her shoes. So when I confided in her what was happening, she just looked at me, she just listened, but she didn't do anything. She didn't say anything, she just kind of walked away. And then I had been on the road for them for a while, and then maybe a few days after that, I got the call that I was let go. That I was let go. And no explanation. That VP called me and said, well, you made your choice, now live with it. So I was like, okay. So there I was, unemployed, my dream, the party was over. Then a few months later, Dia Dame had been desperately trying to get in touch with me, and she wanted to apologize for not protecting me. And she tried to explain the system to me. She was like, this is a game, and if you don't play the game, you're out. So she was trying to explain, and me being that young, I didn't understand what she was going through as a young artist with her first record deal. So she was probably going through much worse than I was. And that conversation haunts me to this day because she was killed not long after that, and it was a mystery around her death. But she tried to explain the system. So this is the second time I'm hearing about a system in place. But she had respect that I came to tell her because I wanted to do something about it. And she pretty much was like, don't let that spirit in you die. So fast forward, I started going into corporate America, working behind the scenes in the entertainment industry and outside the entertainment industry. And I started seeing that system again, whether it was pay, discrimination, and I always had the need to say something. I just couldn't sit there. I don't know if it was the 9-year-old in me, I don't know, but I could never say anything. So needless to say, I went from job to job to job every time I saw something that was not right. And I had a friend in LA, she was an entertainment attorney, and she would counsel me through all of these jobs. And she was like, you know what, Malika, you have a pattern. You have a pattern going on here. She was like, you know, you go in and you fight for a raise, not for yourself. You go in and fight for the pay increase for your entire department. You go in and fight for the policy changes to make things fair for everyone. She was like, the system don't like that. The system does not like that. You're going to keep losing jobs if you don't learn to work with the system. And I said, I don't know, well, maybe that's just who I am. I can't change. And then I started working for Norman Lear in LA. I worked there for a few years. And there were a lot of things going on at Concord Music Group, a record label that he had started. It was a hobby of his. And God rest Norman Lear's. So I did have some positive interactions with him. But when you looked at the system of the industry, there weren't many black employees that worked at this company. And it was a jazz soul label, so you would have thought it'd be more of us, but it was like a handful of us that worked there. So, you know, we would go to lunch and talk about, you know, complain about the policies and our pay and things like that. And then one of the older black employees, he said, look here, Angela Davis, you can't be coming up in here making waves. He was like, you need to put your head down and make this money and act like you don't see nothing. Just put your head down and go to work and get paid. and don't say anything. Get your rent paid. And I'm looking at him like, I can't do that. I can't do that. Fast forward, back to Evanston. Well, before I got back to Evanston, I started marching. Trayvon Martin was one of the first situations where I wanted to really get involved, and I started marching, and I wanted to really get involved in the community. And I came back here to Evanston, and I thought, okay, I want to do something totally dealing with the community, engaging the community. What can I do? I bought a little GoPro camera back in 2015, put it on the windshield of my car, and I started putting candidates in my car and driving them around so they could tell us what their vision was for this city. So I had Haggerty in the car. I had like everybody in my car, right? Like, tell us what you want to do. And it helped to increase the voter turnout because people were able to see another side to these people that were running for office because they forgot the camera was there. This is a little camera on the windshield. So they really opened up about what they loved about Evanston, what they didn't like about Evanston, what they had plans for Evanston. And I loved it. And I you know, Evanston Live TV wasn't the main reason that the voter turnout had increased, but I appreciate that they acknowledged that it helped. So I said, okay, I need to do more. I need to do more. So, you know, going around getting the stories and everything, but there's a system here too in Evanston. So what are we going to do about that system? So then I joined the board of We Will Women. I don't know if anyone in here had heard of that organization. It was an organization that helped women and children get involved in legislation. So I never thought that anyone in this room could help author legislation. Does anyone know that you can write some legislation with a city official? Did you know that? No. Yeah, I did not know that. So I got on that board, and Alexandra Eidenberg asked me, well, what do you want to do? She was the president of the organization. What do you want to do here? And I said, I want to do something for education, for Black history. I want to add pre-enslavement to Black history. She was like, okay, well, let's find out which state representative has a Black history bill and see if you can amend it. And it was just like that. I reached out to State Representative LaShawn K. Ford, asked him if I could amend his bill to add pre-enslavement to show who Black people were prior to being enslaved, all of our contributions, us building kingdoms and contributing to medicine and science. I felt like the entire state of kids should know that about Black people, that that's our history. And he loved it. He loved it. He said, yeah, let's do it. And so it took work and it took fight, and we went up against a system. And you would have thought the system was just Republicans, because definitely we were getting the death threats and everything. It was very scary. But it was also some Democrats behind the scene that did not want. They did not want it. And I was heartbroken and shattered because there were people even in my organization that were working with some city officials, even in this town, who didn't want to sponsor the bill, and they were working against it. It was a whole system that I didn't even know existed in terms of politics and how ordinance and bills are made. It was a beast. But we fought and we kept going. And then Rep. Ford said, what do you want to do now? And I said, let's do a bill where we include everyone. We want the history of women who helped to build this country. Kids need to learn that. The Native community, absolutely. The Latino community, the children need to know everyone who helped to build this country. And he said, well, what do you want to call that bill? And I said, the Inclusive American History Bill. And so we went to battle, went to fight again. More death threats, more issues, more finding out who didn't have our back. And I thought that they were our friends. I thought that they were our partners. That politics is something very, very tricky. But Rep. Ford added it to the Black Caucus agenda, and J.B. Pritzker signed off on it, and it passed in March of 2021. Yes. So now today, I'm thinking, there's a lot going on in Evanston. So I did some state, now I want to do some local right here. I had watched a city council meeting back during the pandemic, and I had watched Alderperson Tom Suffredin. He was fighting the system. I don't know what people feel about Alderperson Tom Suffredin, but that man believes in the people. He fights for the people. And I watched him tell the rest of the council, do not raise the residents' property taxes, especially during a pandemic. They would not listen. They were pretty much just, you know how the council, who here watches the Evanston council meetings? You know how it goes, right? And he just was fighting. He was like, we're smart people. We're creative. We can find another way. Let's not tax the Evanston residents more, especially right now. And he lost that fight. But that stuck with me. That conversation stuck with me. So then, now they have the Envision 2045. They got all these other things going on. Mayor Biss is talking about, let's be bold, let's be creative with housing. There's not enough housing. All right. So I'm like, okay, well, here's a thought. Why don't we freeze the property? Why don't we start somewhere? Why don't we freeze the property tax for people over a certain age, over the age of 65? Yes, you get behind that? Yes. So I've been working with Alderperson Claire Kelly, who has been fighting the system as well beyond, I don't even think some of you even know what Alderperson Claire Kelly has been doing for the people, but she has been fighting especially to keep businesses downtown Evanston and to, stop the increase on their rent and the property taxes with the businesses. So I told her, the idea for the residents, for long-time term residents over the age of 65 and freezing their property taxes. And it's a lot more details to it. And I've been working with Jackson Poller. He's the assistant counselor to the speaker for the state. So he's helping me to draft this. And so we will be presenting this. So hopefully the system won't kill it at Evanston City Council, but I think we need to start it somewhere with the property taxes for those who have been here for a long time and have really poured into this community, and too many people are being priced out. And I know people focus on the Black community being priced out, but it's a lot of people, white people too, who cannot afford to keep their property, and their children can't afford it. So I'm gonna wrap here. I know Lisa's like, girl. So that's my call to action to you today, is to reach out to your alderperson, ask them what would they think about this when it's presented to them. And you can find out which aldermen are for increasing your property taxes and which ones are for trying to keep you here and where you can afford to live here. So the system is here in Evanston too. It exists everywhere, and it exists right here. So whether we're talking about housing, education, property taxes, the systems fight back, but we can fight the system. And I think we can do it. We can't do it alone. It's power in numbers. We can do it. So today I ask you, what will you stand for? Don't wait for the system to hit your door personally. Don't wait until it's too late. Take a stand, speak out, and push back. Thank you. Hey everyone, this is Malika. I just wanted to quickly share with you all the experience I had when I met Kamala Harris. I had the honor of sitting on the board of We Will Women, and it was an organization that taught women and children how to get involved in legislation. And it was through this organization, many of you know, if you watched the Women Speak event that we just recorded back on October 9th, Fran Joy and Lisa Dake and Tony put on an absolute amazing, necessary event where we heard the voices of women. And I shared the story of amending and co-authoring state legislation that also passed, working with State Representative LaShawn K. Ford. So if you want to hear more about that, you can go watch the Women Speak video that I have posted up on social media. But real quick, I learned about the process starting out from We Will Women, from this organization, and what I could do in terms of legislation. And it was through that organization that I met State Representative LaShawn K. Ford, who taught me a great deal about politics and how it works. Absolutely. And we did get legislation added to the Black Caucus agenda and passed in 2021. It was through this organization that I got to go to the Iowa caucus, where I met Kamala Harris. She was running for president of the United States the first time. Now, I had never done anything like this before. I had never been to an Iowa caucus before. I didn't even know what to expect. None of the board members or none of the members of We Will were able to attend this event with me, but I was determined to go because something in me, I'm like, I hadn't written the legislation or amended Rep. Ford's legislation yet, because I was in the process of learning, how it all worked. But on that ride to the Iowa caucus, I was like, I need to be here. I don't know why. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how this all works, but I feel like I need to be in the room, whatever this is. And sure enough, we get there, everyone puts on their Kamala t-shirts, and we're in this small room, and we're packed in there. And she comes out, and she gives an amazing speech. She tells a story of putting her case down as she was knocking on doors to get people's support, and this one woman wouldn't, give her the support, and Kamala put her case down and was determined to have this conversation with this woman to get to know her work and her vision, what she wants to do. And she didn't leave there until, she had that woman's support, or at least that woman knew who she was before she left. And it was a very inspiring speech. And after Kamala got off the stage, many of you know I'm all for speaking up, like speak now or forever hold your peace. And when she got off the stage, I said, okay, I need to talk to this woman. And her staff, it was a rope there, and her staff was there,
And, I tapped one of the staff on the shoulders. I said, I need to talk to her. And he just turned, looked at me. I don't know, maybe it was all over my face, how serious I was. But he signaled for her to come over to me. And we talked. And I said, okay, I probably got but a moment to share with her what's really on my heart. And at that time, though I didn't bring up, the education and legislation that, I was working on at the time, I brought up healthcare. And I brought up my concern for healthcare being affordable, that it needs to be affordable, like it's a human right. And being a black woman and how we're treated in healthcare. And she listened to every word I said. And you can tell when someone's paying attention and when someone is not. They're just waiting for you to just get to the end. She listened to everything I said, and she held my hand. And she said, oh, Malika, we got this. We got this. And she talked to me. It was, you meet a lot of politicians. We even have people on our city council who, there's some that listen and some could really care less. They already got their agenda. They're getting their deals done. She actually listened, and we connected and had similar situations, so, I'm all for someone who can relate and connect to my reality, my experience, and she did that. And, for the rest of the day, we were out there with her, dancing and the music and, just hearing her talk about her vision was just really, really powerful. And I must say that when I got back from Iowa, I was fired up to get busy on the legislation and couldn't wait to meet with Rep. Ford, and there was no stopping, just determined, like this must work, because she just really set an example of what an individual with drive and passion and really caring for the people and just driving what you can make happen. And so my experience with Kamala Harris was absolutely needed, and it spoke volumes to me about her. So I know people hear, oh, she locked up all these people, put them in prison and all of this. I say go and do your own research. Don't just listen to the podcast or the blogs. You go and do the research yourself and see exactly what she's done. Her body of work is amazing, and it speaks to who she is. It's work that she's been doing, not something she's gonna do, that she hasn't done. It's work that she's been doing. She's been working for the people. And she was just a true inspiration to me. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I learned so much from watching her that day, and then coming back, working with We Will and working with Representative Ford. It was just gold, an experience I will never, ever forget. And now working on new legislation, local here in Evanston. And I would say it's from those three. We Will, Kamala Harris, Rep. Ford. I learned so much. And so I come to you today to please people, do your own research, stay engaged with, this is probably one of the most important elections of our time period. Go do your own research on these matters. What's documented? Look at the body of work. And vote. Please vote. Please do not say, I'm sitting this out, because you don't know, you're undecided. Please make a decision and vote. I did early voting. The second day early voting was open, I was there. Went to get my annual mammogram, and right after that I went from Endeavor North Shore on Ridge over to the Civic Center here in Evanston, and I voted, because I'm thinking about my health care rights as a woman in this country is in jeopardy. And after doing the mammogram, and ladies, you know how uncomfortable that is, yeah, I went straight over there. I don't want anyone telling me what to do with my body. So please, people, vote. Early voting is still open. It's countdown to Election Day, one of the most important elections of our time period, people. Please, please vote. Thank you.